Hello everybody, welcome back to your IBS Answer Portal. Today we are continuing the T-108 video series, and this is part 2. This video is about your phase 2 treatment protocol. This phase 2 starts on week 7. You should have been following the strict protocol that I laid out for you in phase 1. Which was the utilization of enzyme replacement therapy, strict low FODMAP diet, and those both enzymes that we discussed, which were Digest Gold and the Beanzyme alpha-galactosidase enzyme replacement therapy. At the end of 6 weeks, you should have been markedly improved. We are at phase 2 now in week 7. This is an old-fashioned elimination diet. You're now going to get to experience what foods and or what enzymes you're deficient in, because we're going to start reintroducing and testing your system one food at a time. And I say one food at a time. Just bear in mind, even though your stools have improved, you no longer should be experiencing flatulence, gas, cramping, and bloating, because we took away all those foods that were producing those gas, cramping, and bloating, the fermenting of the sugars. And you are doubly protecting yourself with enzyme replacement therapy. In phase 2, we're going to start with one food at a time. That means you could experience some guacamole if you have an avocado sliced in a salad. But I still implore you to take that Beanzyme, which is the alpha-galactosidase, prophylactically, because I'll guarantee you the lining of your small intestine, even though it healed, it did not regenerate the cells that produce the enzymes. The reason why there is so much variation and there's so much inconsistency is because every patient is an individual and every patient is different. No one patient sustains the same damage as the next person. On top of it, it also depends upon duration. How long have you sustained the damage? How many years have you had IBS? Someone who has recently been diagnosed with IBS has a greater propensity or chance to not have a severe condition as someone who's had it for 10 years. And that is because the amount of damage that keeps getting sustained. So if you follow this to the letter, you will recover. Concerning what you have to do now, you must still take your enzyme replacement therapy. And you must continue this at least for a year, I guarantee you. In my particular case, I had IBS for 10 years. It took me 3.5 years for me to no longer even need the enzymes. I now eat what I want, and I am fine. The only medication I do take is lactate pills, the lactate brand pills, which is lactase, because I am still lactose intolerant. And I discussed why this occurs. Remember, we're talking about a condition called PILI, that's post-infectious lactose intolerant. There are about 30% of the people who have a severe gastrointestinal infection, and after they recover from their gastrointestinal infection, they go back to their doctor for an office visit, and they say, doctor will say, well, how do you feel? You say, oh, I feel fine. I no longer have any problems. But doc, I have a problem. Every time I eat ice cream, cheese, or milk, I butter. I get gas, sharp pain, and flatulence, and loose stools. Doctor goes, I'll bet you're lactose intolerant. And then the doctor proceeds to tell you about 30% of their patients that have a severe infection, such as the one you had, ends up becoming lactose intolerant. But in most instances, the doctor tells you, it can be temporary. It can last 4 months. It takes that long for those enzyme glandular producing cells to recover. That means even though their brush border repaired after their gastrointestinal infection, the glandular cells that line their ileum or last section of the small intestine, those cells that produce lactase, the milk sugar enzyme that breaks down the milk sugar, those cells are damaged, and it takes a long time for them to regenerate. So getting back to your treatment protocol, we still want to facilitate the ongoing process of rebuilding and reconstructing your brush border. Even though every 2 to 5 days, new cells are being produced every day of your life, the glandular cells are compromised. And I explained this to the colorectal surgeon, and he said to me, you know what, Lawrence? You make total sense, and now I understand it. And you follow this protocol, you're going to be cured. I guarantee you. The problem here is a physician can't give you a pill that you take for 10 days, and voila, you're cured. There is no way you can reconstruct your brush border to full functioning in 10 days with a medication. It doesn't exist. And bear in mind, compare it and try and remember my analogy to the person who had multiple injuries and compound fractures from an automobile accident. Think in your own mind, if you had to have pins and plates put into bones that were multiple compound fractures, and the doctor tells you 6 months to a year to heal, you can visualize that those bones take that amount of time to start meshing and healing. Well, I'm telling you the same thing with your lining of your small intestine. Yes, the lining heals. Your goblet cells start regenerating right away and producing mucus. But it is those enzyme-producing glandular cells that take the time. So follow this diet. We will follow up with more things. We'll get into recipes. We'll get into how to order out in a restaurant, how to handle ghost ingredients. But now phase 2, until I tell you it can be over, you've got to follow this, and it can take up to a year. For any particular information you need, if you're not sure, read the book, because the book clearly lays it out and explains it. You can visually see it. But our next videos are going to start talking about your diet, how to handle certain foods that you eat out, ideas for cooking, ideas for understanding what foods could be bad for you or hidden dangers. So there's a lot coming down the pike, and we are going to have individual consultation services that we'll be able to set up via either a cell phone call or a Skype call, whatever you feel most comfortable with, or even a text. But I will be offering that service. So I guarantee you can get better. And we're also going to talk about other cultures. Why is it such a mass amount of people, 70 million people in America, and yet other cultures and other countries do not experience the same percentage of people in their populations that present with inflammatory bowel diseases. A lot coming down the pike, and it's all there for you. So please continue following this channel. Thank you, and have a successful rebuilding of your brush border.